Good afternoon, this is Metropol News at 1. My name is Kelvin Nyakundi. Now, Matatu operators have welcomed a decision by the government to allow public service vehicles to carry passengers at full capacity. Now, the operators, however, say the move was long overdue, with others yet to go back to full capacity operations because of binding insurance agreements. On Friday, the Ministry of Transport said the industry had agreed to self-regulate in COVID-19 compliance. According to Transport CAS, Chris Obure, together with the Matatu industry players, they will implement strict measures that are already in place.
Kwenye tunabebanga huko Wayakiwe hakuku hata na watu. Kitambo sasa hiyo gari ijae na magari ni mingi. I see only a difference because nilikuwa nabeba 100, sasa nakuta nabeba 70 because kuna ile competition.
A lot of people are still working from home. So as much as we are carrying full, you find that the number of trips still not as high as they used to be before.
Sasa hii magari tushikia insurance. Kama insurance yako ni watu 29, bado haijakatiwa watu 51, inabidi bado baki tu watu 29. Baka mwenye gari akate insurance ya watu 51. Juu gari hata kifanya accident na imebeba watu 51 na insurance inasema 29. Naona hapo at least haieleweki.
Tutangoja tuone venye itapik. Ukienda skodi, hutaenda skodi mingi, lakini hiyo skodi kidogo utakuwa na pesa at least iko juu kiasi kuliko ile nyingine.
Hapa tunaona sasa tumereduce fare. Serikali nayo ifanye kitu reduce fuel. That hiyo ita-equalize. Failure to lower down the fuel price, it makes sense.
Now, players in the tourism sector want the government to review the recent changes in the Magical Kenya tourism and travel health and safety protocols in order to revive the sector, which has stagnated since the advent of the COVID-19. The Kenya Association of Hotel Keepers and Caterers have now called for an urgent meeting with the Tourism and Wildlife Cabinet Secretary Najib Balala. Now, according to the union's Chief Executive Officer Sam Ikwaye, the industry has good overview and projections for the business in the quarter of the year, supported by countries such as Germany, who have recently withdrawn Kenya from its red list owing to the hotel industry's heavy investment in compliance. Ikwaye says the hotels serving both foreign and local visitors have fully complied with the tourism protocol alongside that of the Ministry of Health, and that any directive from the government should take cognizance of the compliance level within the sector. Speaking to Metropol TV's Business AM this morning, the Kenya Association of Hotel Keepers and Caterers CEO Mike Macharia faulted the government for always shutting down the hotel industry in case of a spike instead of finding ways to contain the spread while allowing the industry to operate.
First industry last year in May to sit down with the staff and agree on a modus operandi for the time that they were out of work.
Yes.
We were still the first industry to sit down and develop a complete, comprehensive 46-page Magical Kenya safety protocol, safe travels protocol.
Yes.
We were testing our staff every 3 months. And the turnaround of positive cases within our premises was less than 1%. In fact, at one point, the Ministry of Health told us to stop testing en masse and go targeted now. From our industry point of view, what we should be seeing is that instead of the Ministry of Health deliberately locking us down every time there is a spike, what they should be doing is actually investigating how we are able to keep infections so low.
Yes.
In an industry that has very high person-to-person contact. But every time there is a spike, the minister goes out there and announces shut down hotels, shut down everything, tourism. But on the flip side, we are seeing political rallies continuing, which attract a lot of people. We are still seeing places of worship continuing. Some don't follow protocol. We are now we are seeing matatus can go back to full capacity with no protocols. So it leaves us wondering, why are we being classified like that?
Now to the coronavirus situation in the country. Kenya's COVID-19 positivity rate stands at 12.3% after the Ministry of Health reported 800 new infections on Sunday. The confirmed cases were from a sample size of 6,530 tests. Kenya's caseload now stands at 211,828. In terms of county distribution, Nairobi has 286 new cases, Mombasa 102, Kiambu 101, Kitui 41, Taita Taveta 40 and Nakuru 30. Health Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe further announced 32 more COVID-19 fatalities captured during facility audit. Kenya's cumulative fatalities now stand at 4,149. A total of 1,719 patients are currently admitted in various health facilities countrywide, with 113 of them in the intensive care units. In terms of vaccination, Kenya has now administered over 1.8 million doses of COVID-19 vaccines, with at least 698,000 people having been fully vaccinated. To China, where the Asian country continues to witness a surge in COVID-19 infections. In the last 24 hours, China has reported 125 new COVID-19 cases, up from 96 a day earlier. Now, according to National Health Commission, the 125 new infections include 94 local transmissions and 31 from overseas. No new suspected cases or deaths related to the disease were reported on Sunday. China has so far reported nearly 94,000 cases of coronavirus, including over 1,600 patients still receiving treatment, 49 of whom are in severe condition. Now, ODM leader Raila Odinga says there is urgent need to stamp out massive corruption in government and state agencies. In a statement this morning on how to address human resource and infrastructure challenges within the health sector, the former Prime Minister said the alleged loss of COVID-19 funds at the Kenya Medical Supplies Agency should be a wake-up call. KEMSA has been on the spot since last year after it emerged that the public may have lost billions of shillings through dubious procurement of COVID-19 related supplies. Raila says the agency has become a pale shadow of its otherwise viable former self, and that the medical supply agency needed to capture its lost ground. According to Odinga, restructuring KEMSA would save the country from further loss of public funds to graft. Now, price of teas at the Mombasa tea auction has increased for the third week in a row, a month since the government introduced the minimum reserve prices of tea. Now, prices of teas from KTDA managed factories improved marginally at auction to fetch an average of 264 shillings per kilogram compared to 250 shillings during the previous week's auction. Now, during the auction in the first week of August, KTDA managed factories offloaded 84% of all teas offered at the market, down from 87% sold the previous week. Now, prices of tea at the Mombasa tea auction have been on a downward trend since 2018 and had this year slid below 200 shillings, threatening to push farmers to losses due to the low selling prices that could not cover production costs. Now, in his market update last week, KTDA Holdings acting CEO Wilson Mudaura noted that the improvement in price and absorption of KTDA tea is welcome and is a reflection that tea buyers appreciate the need for sustainable tea farming. Kenyan private sector players have expressed optimism in making steps towards recovery of COVID-19. Now, following a commitment by the East African Community Secretariat to prioritize strengthening public-private sector partnerships in vaccine manufacturing in the region, EAC Secretary General Dr. Peter Mathuki said there was need for a coordinated approach in handling COVID-19 in the region and emphasized on the need for local production of vaccines. Speaking today during a CEO roundtable breakfast meeting organized by the East African Business Council in Nairobi, Dr. Mathuki also noted that the Secretariat is working on reviewing the treaty for the establishment of the EAC.
Time now, private sector, you need to move beyond advocacy and action now. You need to go on the table. Don't knock the kitchen, and the kitchen is too busy and nobody will have time to open for you. Push the door, sit on the table, and action and provide solutions. I want to congratulate KEPSA and the private sector in Kenya for the initiative of supporting and working with the government, particularly on the vaccines, because that is how you claim your seat on the table. That support, working together with government to ensure that you provide solutions.
The need for private sector increasingly to be involved in this is really an open challenge from government today, by way of all the frameworks and structures that exist and all the issues that we are currently working on, which include the issue that you brought up with the green agenda and the policies and frameworks that were put in place by way of transboundary ecosystems, the efforts that were put in place to ensure that the EAC is social, economic and environment as what it espouses, the ongoing work with respect to the common external tariff, or the issue with respect to double taxation and the NTBs. All of these are structures and frameworks that we're constantly seeking solutions for.
Our coming together as EAC over 20 years ago and the progress that we have made since then has been remarkable. As you all know, we are now one customs union, a customs union that is probably one of the strongest on the continent of Africa, something that we are very proud of. Every year, our finance ministers read our budgets together with same customs rules and rates and policies, and that has been really, really good progress. We also have made some significant progress on the common market aspect of our program, where we are able to do a lot of things like true East Africans. And I still remember President Kenyatta committing to other East Africans that they can come, live, work here in Kenya, own property, marry, and do everything else that any Kenyan can do without any restriction.
National Assembly Speaker Justin Muturi has pledged to support business recovery in the country, noting that micro, small and medium-sized enterprises transcend many sectors of the economy. Now, Muturi has expressed the need for policy interventions to support the struggling business environment. The Speaker made the remarks when he held talks with the leadership of the MSME Alliance in Kenya to explore policy options to support businesses survive under the COVID-19 pandemic.
If possible, you get an appointment, the board members sit down with the head of state, whereby we'll be able to have that open discussion like we had before, whereby we'll be able to highlight so that some of these policies can be able to assist us and as he assisted us earlier, so that we unlock some pending issues that have.
Saa zingine watu wanasema biashara dogo dogo, lakini hata iwe dogo namna gani, lazima sheria zile tunapitisha, policies zisipochungwa, zisipopata input ya wale ambao wanafanya hiyo kazi, itakuwa na shida, especially implementation.
Now, the Capital Markets Authority has directed Saiton Asset Managers Limited, a licensed fund manager, to halt signing up new clients until it changes the names of its businesses and its regulated products. According to CMA, the move seeks to enhance investor protection and promote confidence in the integrity of capital markets. CMA CEO Wycliffe Shamia says the decision will effectively eliminate any confusion caused by the similar name used by the unlicensed entity, Saiton Investment Management Limited. Shamia further says this will enable the public to clearly distinguish between the entity offering unregulated products and thus facilitate better decision making. The directives to stop onboarding clients will be in effect for a period of 3 months or such a time when the fund manager will fully comply. Saiton has been on the spot after it emerged that thousands of Kenyans risk losing their cash through the Saiton high-yielding solutions. Let's now look at how the forex market is performing. Now, oil prices have dropped 2%, extending last week's steep losses on the back of a rising US dollar and concerns that new pandemic curbs in Asia, especially China, may set back the global recovery in fuel demand. Now, Brent crude futures have dropped 1.41 to $69.29 a barrel after having slumped 6% last week, their biggest weekly loss in 4 months. US West Texas Intermediate crude futures fell 1.32 to $66.96 a barrel after having slumped nearly 7% last week in their steepest weekly decline in 9 months. Analysts are pointing to new restrictions in China, the world's second largest oil consumer, as a major factor clouding the outlook for demand growth. The curbs include flight cancellations, warnings by 46 cities against travel, and limits on public transport and taxi services in 144 of the worst hit areas. On Monday, China reported 125 new COVID-19 cases, up from 96 a day earlier. Well, that's it for Metropol News at 1 at this time. My name is Kelvin Nyakundi from the rest of the team here at Metropol TV. Have a wonderful afternoon.
At Metropol TVKE,